When it comes to the NFL, she can be a rather cruel mistress. And when it comes to certain players, they can never seem to get off the mat with all the criticism that they've been getting. And for the Detroit Lions, that definitely seems to be the case for one such player. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lion.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Lions friends and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. My friends, when it comes to the Detroit Lions, obviously so far, everybody's ecstatic, everybody's excited, everybody's happy about the fact that we're 3-1. They're happy about what happened on Monday night against the Seattle Seahawks. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of optimism as far as where the team is, where the team is going, and what we can look forward to for the rest of the year. And I would say over the first 4 weeks of the season, things have gone largely, most everybody's way as far as what we were wanting to see. The offense, yes, has been a bit problematic, but like I said, the Monday Night Football game, that cleared up a lot of things, made a lot of people feel better about the situation. And then on top of that, other than the second half of the game against said Seattle Seahawks, the defense has been absolutely outstanding. However, though, that does not mean that there have been certain areas where certain players for the Detroit Lions have received an exceptionally amount of heavy-handed criticism. Now, I'm going to say this. Depending upon what side of the aisle you are on, you might consider it too much. You might consider it not enough. But I do know this. When we came into this offseason, and, we were seeing all the moves that the Lions were making, I know for a fact that one of the main positions, other than edge rusher, that Lions fans desperately wanted Brad Holmes to address was the cornerback position. And he addressed the cornerback position. And there was a lot of damn good reason why Lions fans wanted him to address that position. Because if you go back to last season, our pass coverage on defense was horrendous. I'm just going to put up some of the passing coverage stats from last year, so 2023. You take a look at these stats, you're instantaneously going to get a very, very clear picture why it was imperative that we fix our pass defense. We literally were terrible last year when it came to that area. We could not stop damn near anybody. So it was quite clearly obvious that the Lions' pass defense last year, it was a weak point. To be entirely honest, it was a sieve because we could not stop anybody when we desperately needed to. Run defense absolutely had that locked down. Our run defense was literally the second best last year. But that's a pretty easy thing to fix if you're an offense. Oh, hey, we can't run the ball, but we can throw all over them like nobody's business. That was where we kept running into issues. So obviously, Brad Holmes went to work this offseason to fix that. Now, the investments that Holmes made were quite extensive. We already know this. Because when he set out to give the unit the necessary makeover, the necessary fix that it needed, he literally employed all three aspects of roster building or team building this offseason. He literally made a trade. He signed a free agent, and he drafted 2 players. And these were some pretty damn good players. Carlton Davis is a very solid, very good freaking, veteran cornerback. You look at Amik Robertson, very feisty, very aggressive slot cornerback, but he can also play outside. And then we got two really damn good cornerbacks in the draft in Rakestraw and Arnold. So it's like, okay, we're coming into the season this year, and it's like, there's a lot of anticipation. There's a lot of optimism for this revamped unit. Because now Holmes has done the one thing that he's never done in the past for that secondary. Actually invest high draft capital into the cornerback room. Every other time that we had seen anything go to the cornerback room, it had always been something like, kind of like a patch job. We really hadn't invested anything of a serious nature. That all changed. So it's like, okay, we have that. Then we get into camp and it's like, hey, we start hearing all these reports about how well the defensive secondary is looking against our offense. So it's like, okay, we got a good start point. We've got a good jumping off point when we're going into the season. But the reality is that once the regular season hit, a good sum of what was reported instantaneously kind of went the exact opposite way. Let me explain here. When we were going into the regular season, there were a lot of, good amount of Lions fans, and there were a lot of good amount of media analysts that were like, well, we like what we see as far as the investments. But is this going to really amount to the team having any growth and, any increased ability in that room? And I'm going to say this right now. The majority of the defense has been able to show that growth, has been able to show that increase in talent. But when it comes to the corners, I'm telling you, they have been absolutely lambasted. They have gotten nothing but criticism damn near since the beginning of the season. Now, I'm not trying to say that they aren't deserving of said criticism, but there has to be an understanding of, okay, you can criticize, but are you really keeping everything in perspective when you're doing said criticism? And I don't think people are. And when we're having this conversation, we have to take a look at the one cornerback that's absolutely getting roasted. Like, he is literally just getting, taken to the torch damn near every time. And that's Terrion Arnold. He is getting literally the most heat when it comes out of all of the cornerbacks. Carlton Davis is also getting some too, but Terrion Arnold is the one that's getting, I would say, about 90% of all of the criticism, heat, whatever the case might be. Now, understand, being a first-round draft pick, that is expected. You're obviously going to have high expectations. And with the fact that the Lions invested into that position, and considering the fact that, we are gunning for a Super Bowl this year, the criticism is definitely going to be easy coming, and it's definitely going to be quite a lot, especially when things don't look like they're going well. But the problem is that I'm having with this criticism is that the amount of backlash that's being given to this young man, but yet not being kept in the proper context, is absolutely ridiculous. Because if you take a look at the first quarter of the NFL season for Terrion Arnold, yeah, it's not exactly been his best work. I understand that. But let me put something out here, folks. The type of criticism that we're hearing for Terrion Arnold only after 4 games, and what we're hearing as far as comparisons and all this other nonsense, dude, it's not only absolutely ridiculous, it's been damn near incessant, like I said. Again, I don't know how many times I've heard this when it comes to Terrion Arnold, but there are Lions fans that I think have got a serious case of PTSD because they do not know how to let certain aspects of, things from the past go. And what I'm specifically referring to when I'm talking about Terrion Arnold here is the Jeff Okudah comparison. How many times I have literally heard this comparison from certain Lions fans absolutely drives me up a damn wall. I cannot understand why you Lions fans that want to say this stuff are doing it. First and foremost, all you're doing is just being negative Nancy's, number one. But to try and even compare, to try and even do any sort of, talking about these two men, these two cornerbacks, is absolutely ridiculous. You can't even pretend to think it's a fair topic. Again, I've talked about this before, but Jeff Okudah was a 3rd overall draft pick. 3rd overall. And the reason why that is such an important thing to state is because when you're that high of a selection, yeah, the expectation is you're going to come in and instantaneously you're going to start making an impact. That is how a third overall pick is supposed to be, regardless of what position it is. Again, Terrion Arnold was drafted 24th overall, folks. You are talking about a 21 pick difference there, which, okay, it's still a first round draft pick, but like I said, there's 21 picks of difference in between those spots, which means there's a hell of a lot of difference in the amount of expectation between the two. But that's not even the worst part about the whole Jeff Okudah and, Terrion Arnold comparison nonsense. Let's think about this from the perspective of what was happening on draft night, folks. Let's think about it from that perspective. Jeff Okudah was drafted 3rd overall, right? If you go back to that draft, there were still players on the board like, oh, that's right, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs, and Jalen Johnson. At the 3rd overall pick, those guys were all still on the board. So when you think about it from that perspective, oh yeah, the Jeff Okudah pick looks like ass. Yeah, it looks bad. But who was on the board when we were drafting Terrion Arnold, when we traded up? Because again, most people forget that. We had to trade up with Dallas to get that pick. The only other option really that was on the board at that point that really would have made sense for the Lions was Darius Robinson, the edge rusher out of Missouri. I'm going to tell you this right now. If my options are Terrion Arnold and Darius Robinson, I'll take Arnold every day, twice on Sunday, 365. There's no way in hell I would have taken Darius Robinson. Darius Robinson is a decently good player. But Darius Robinson was also coming into the situation extremely raw and green compared to Arnold. Arnold was considered by many people to be the best cornerback in the draft this year. Darius Robinson was considered part of that really large, good group of edge rushers. But he was usually considered towards the bottom of that group. So okay here, which would I rather have? The supposed best cornerback in the draft, a group that we desperately also need attention to, or a okay to good edge rusher, but he's going to need a whole lot of development. And then, oh, by the way, let me remind everybody, Darius Robinson has not played a game this year, whereas Terrion Arnold has played all 4. Yeah, that totally, completely changes the entire dynamic of a conversation of when we're saying, oh, well, Jeff Okudah versus Terrion Arnold. Even within the first 4 games of the year, you can't even make that comparison just from the circumstances surrounding when they were drafted and who they were drafted with. So there's that. But when you start even taking a look at the statistical comparison, this is what makes, dude, I swear to God, I love the fact that I'm a historically minded person, because let's do a little recap here. Let's talk about Jeff Okudah in his first 4 games with the Detroit Lions. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Jeff Okudah's first 4 games as a starter for the Detroit Lions, he allowed a completion percentage of 73.1%, almost 300 yards. He did have an interception, but also a passer rating of 94.9. Okay, keep those stats in your mind, because now what we're going to do is we're going to transition over to Terrion Arnold. Here's Terrion Arnold's stats over the first 4 games of the year. 64 completion percentage rate, almost 10% difference, 10% less. 178 passing yards given up, half of the total yards that Jeff Okudah gave up. Now, the difference primarily between the two is Arnold has given up a passing touchdown, and he doesn't have an interception. But the passer rating is virtually the damn same, 98.4. So wait a minute here. Jeff Okudah had a much higher completion percentage. He had almost double the amount of passing yards. He had 1 turnover to his name, but the passer rating between the two is almost damn near the same. It's almost identical. Okay, those stats in your mind. Let's think about who the cornerbacks that I just talked about, Okudah and Arnold, were playing in their first 4 games. You go back to Okudah's first quarterbacks and wide receiver duos and tandems that he faced against. It was Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. That's a pretty good combo. Then you had Murray, so Kyler Murray, with DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. Okay, pretty damn good still. But then you get to Drew Brees, which Drew Brees is a Hall of Fame quarterback, like in terms of talent. But who are the receivers he was throwing to? Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith. Not exactly going to strike fear into anybody. And then the last quarterback and wide receiver he faced in those first 4 games was Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark. Okay, folks. So you have some really good guys in the beginning, and then it just literally tapers off almost towards the end. Okay. Who's Terrion Arnold faced over the first 4 games of his career? Matthew Stafford with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Baker Mayfield with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Again, Kyler Murray, but only with Marvin Harrison Jr. And Geno Smith versus Metcalf, Lockett, Smith-Njigba, and Noah Fant. So let me ask you this question. When you consider the stats between the two gentlemen, and then you take a look at who they had to face in their first 4 games of the year, and then, oh, by the way, consider the fact that when Jeff Okudah was playing, he was with a supposed defensive genius in freaking Patricia, versus Terrion Arnold does not have said such thing. Because, again, while I will talk about how, Glenn has done a much better job this year and he's made a lot of stride and progress, nobody's talking about Aaron Glenn like he's some defensive genius like they were talking about Patricia back in 2019, 2020. So yeah, when you put all that into perspective, let me just give you a rundown here. Arnold has had to face better quarterbacks and better assortment of wide receiver talent altogether, and yet he's pretty much posted the same exact stats in terms of passer rating, but less in terms of yards and completion percentage. So, in my honest opinion, Terrion Arnold is doing immensely better than what Jeff Okudah did in his first 4 games, when you consider everything. And then let me ask you this question, folks, to kind of draw a comparison that's very similar to this, but not in necessary terms of a cornerback. Let me ask you this question. How many of y'all remember what certain Lions fans did with Jameson Williams? Jameson Williams, when he first got in, granted, was injured, but after the injury was done, and then he came back, and then there was all the nonsense that then happened thereafter, such as the Coney Island incident, such as the fireworks incident, then the whole gambling incident. How many Lions fans literally wanted to start putting that BUST label on him? How many people just wanted to say, I'm done, I'm giving up, I don't want to deal with Jameson Williams anymore? He's been nothing but a pain in the neck, he's been a waste of a space and waste of a roster space and pick, got those backwards, and they just wanted to get rid of him. They were done. Now here we are, four games into this season, and Jameson Williams is literally been as advertised. He's a game changer. He is a literal drive changer. Get the ball into his hands and he can flip a drive on a dime. But what I'm trying to say is, in the very beginning, that young man was criticized to no damn end. And now look at what he's doing. Rather interesting comparison now, don't you think? And like I said, Terrion Arnold was considered to be the best cornerback in the draft. But who was actually the first cornerback drafted in last year's draft? Oh, that's right. That was, hopefully I pronounced his first name correctly, Kenyon or whatever Mitchell. If I mispronounced it, I do apologize. But take a look at his stats compared to Terrion Arnold for the first 4 games of the year as a rookie, just like Arnold. The completion percentage is definitely less than Arnold, but the yards are more. Doesn't have a touchdown or an interception. But again, take a look at the passer rating, a 91.4. So we're still talking in that 90 ball club as far as passer rating is concerned. So again, there's not much difference between the first cornerback that was drafted this year and Terrion Arnold. And likewise, there's no real difference between Terrion Arnold's numbers for his first 4 games versus Jeff Okudah's first 4 games. But yet, Terrion Arnold has gone against much better quarterbacks and wide receivers versus what Jeff Okudah had when he went through his first 4 games. Y'all starting to see the picture I'm drawing here? Y'all starting to understand why I'm saying this is getting ridiculous? Because again, there's been other instances. There have been people like Mike Payton who wanted to say in his, article from A to Z Sports that Arnold should have been benched so that way he could sit and refine his technique to get better. Again, that's dumb. And again, I like Mike Payton. I've liked a lot of his work. But you cannot sit somebody and expect that that's somehow going to make them better. They have to learn. They have to gain experience. And when you take a look at it, oh, that's right. Like I've talked about, Terrion Arnold has gotten better every single week. If you take a look at what he did against the freaking Seahawks, yeah, you want to talk about that one defensive pass interference or whatever else. But the numbers that Terrion Arnold posted in that game against the Seattle Seahawks, they were pretty damn good. Like the passer rating, I think, was in the 50s or something? I am good with that all damn day long. I will not complain about that. Not at all. And that was against a passing group of the Seahawks that has three really damn good wide receivers, one really great one, and also a solid damn tight end. And he did an excellent job. So does really benching a cornerback when they are struggling a little bit in their first 4 games of professional football ever against some really damn quarterbacks and wide receivers, let me ask you this question, folks. Does that really make any damn sense? It doesn't make any damn sense to me. Because again, let me take you back to 2014, folks, when we drafted a guy by the name of Darius Slay, or it could have been 2013, whatever. Go back to Slay's first 4 games. Again, much like I've compared the other cornerbacks to Terrion Arnold. Oh, that's right. Darius Slay's passing completion percentage was much better than Terrion Arnold's. It was 10% less than 64%. But the yards, pretty much the same. Oh, Darius Slay, just like Terrion Arnold, had given up a touchdown. No interceptions. And wouldn't you know it, the passer rating was in the 90s just as well, a 92.1. And again, Darius Slay turned out to be one of the best cornerbacks that not only the Lions have ever had, but one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL for a good long period of time. I mean, for crying out loud, he was called Darius Big Play Slay. You don't get a nickname like that just because, you let guys throw all over you. So my point of the matter is that for people that thought Terrion Arnold was going to come in and, be like another Sauce Gardner, Jalen Ramsey, or Charles Woodson in their first years, your expectations were simply delusional. They were unrealistic because the guys I just mentioned, those guys are the anomalies. They are the exceptions to the rule. They are not the standard. Cornerbacks are damn near going to have the most difficult transition other than quarterbacks and tight ends from the college game to the professional game. That's what I'm trying to get y'all people to understand that wanted to go after Arnold. It's like, dude, you guys are going nuts over this. The kid's been doing actually pretty damn well considering the circumstances. That's why my thumbnail image is like, haven't we been here before? Because we have. We've been here before with Jamison Williams, with fans that wanted to criticize him, wanted to say he was a bust because, they didn't like what they were seeing out of him. Now, granted, that was because they hadn't seen much out of him to begin with, but still, take a look at what he was compared to when he was in terms of the criticism versus now. Same thing happened with Darius Slay back when he first got here. He was a second-round draft pick, but a lot of people thought he was going to wind up being a waste of a space and a waste of a roster pick and whatever. But again, Darius Slay went on to have a damn fine career in being one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. That's my point, folks. The fact that Terrion Arnold has not let this bother him, that he's been a true professional, that he's also maintained his confidence, I give the kid all the kudos in the world. Because that's hard to do when you've got people that are just barking down your neck that most of them don't understand what the hell they're talking about. They just want to whine and cry and complain because, I just don't like what I see on a television. That's my point, folks. Give the kid a break. Knock it the hell off. Enjoy the fact that he's getting better every single game and that guys like Dan Campbell and, Aaron Glenn and everybody else that works with him, they've not lost any confidence. Because that's what truly matters. He's not losing confidence. He is getting better. Again, what has Dan Campbell said? We want slow, steady progression. We do not want this. But anyway, folks, I'm going to end the episode. And I want to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also, I want to encourage you all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage you all please to also subscribe, but also make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to encourage y'all please to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you possibly can. And with that being said, folks, whether you've been a long-time viewer or this is your first time viewing my channel and my content, I hope you all enjoyed the show. And I also hope you all got something in your life that makes you happy and it makes you smile. God bless, my friends. Enjoy the fact that the Lions have a bye week, be able to watch other games, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.